go ahead and break it down and get into it, man. Everybody wants to hear my thoughts on this Alabama, obviously, versus Vandy matchup. And it's a pretty big one. It is a pretty big one. Two really good teams. I mean, you got Johnny Manziel, who's mentoring, Diego Pavia. Obviously, that's huge. And you got two teams that are in important positions right now. When you look at Vandy, they've started off 5-0, start the year, right? And it's a team that wants to get better, right? And they want to continue to kind of trek up, and Pavia's having a Heisman candidate worthy season. Once again, and he's been taking advantage of his opportunities. He's been throwing the ball with some of the best of them, and he's been electric so far to start the year. And then you look at Alabama. Alabama's a team that everybody wrote off, and this is why I love the CFP going to 12 teams, because remember everybody was saying week one when they got beat by Florida State, Bama's done, it's a wrap, it's over with for them, and then now we're seeing the tide change, right? Which is ironic enough, Crimson Tide changing. Alabama's the number 10 team overall, right? And now you're seeing I guess you could say, what's the term I'm looking for? The opinion on Kalen DeBoer changed a little bit too, right? People are saying, oh, well, maybe we look too deeply at the week one, right? And y'all got to remember, you're not playing your best football on week one, right? You're still figuring things out. You're still trying to figure out the identity of your team, all that good stuff, because it's new pieces being meshed together, y'all. Y'all got to remember that, because you're hitting the transfer portal, right? You're bringing in new freshmen, and you're trying to work a new team every single year, right? So Alabama showed on the road against Georgia, they can go in there and they can go ball, right? And when you look at this game, I think it's going to be very important for the Alabama Crimson Tide to run the rock, right? Now, y'all seen in my intro, I talked about Jam Miller, obviously, and how big and how stellar he's gotten. He just returned last week, but he's going to be massive for Alabama in this game, right? And we see Ty Simpson. I've been thoroughly impressed. You look at the stat sheet, you look at what he's doing on the football field. As Kirby Smart said before their game against Georgia, he's one of the hottest quarterbacks in college football, and we're seeing it, right? 11 touchdowns, 1,138 yards passing. He doesn't turn over the football, right? He makes the right reads and throws. If it's not there, he's going to try to scramble for it. If he can't scramble, he's throwing the ball out of bounds, right? And I love now that Miller is returning back, right? And to couple that with a Riley and an Ackland-Deer, that's going to help their running game, which has struggled this season. If you look at Alabama, like a store like 488 yards at this point in the season is not good for Bama. You're usually seeing, 300-400 yard rushers at this point in the season. You have not seen that. But with Jam Miller coming back, the offensive line finding a stride, you obviously got an All-American in Caden Proctor. It looks good. So if I'm them early on, establish the run, right? Hit Vanderbilt in the mouth, and then hit them deep shots down the field with Jeremy Bernard, obviously, and Ryan Williams and things like that. Now, again, it's not going to be easy because Vanderbilt's coming in with momentum. Vanderbilt's coming in with confidence, right? A team they feel like they can beat in Alabama. The way they control the football, the way they can hit on those big plays down the field. This is not an easy matchup. But the good thing for the Crimson Tide is this game's home, right? It's at home. So you have the ability to handle your business at home, and you got the crowd behind you. And this is a team, if you're Alabama, you should feel even more motivated because they upset you last year, right? There was one of the teams that you was looking, you was like, well, why isn't Bama getting to the college football playoff? And that was one of the reasons, because of Vanderbilt and losing to them, right? So it's a big game for both teams, right? If you're Bama, you don't want a second loss this early in the year in October. You just don't want that. So if you're the Crimson Tide, let's handle the business. Let's lean on Ty Simpson and Jam Miller. Let's establish the running game. You got a pretty good defense. We've seen it last week. I know Georgia got a lot of yards on the ground. Credit to Chauncey Bowens. Credit, obviously, to they running backs in Josh McCurry and everything like that. But overall, you did pretty good in the secondary. Yes, there was a few lapses and a few busts. But besides that, your team played pretty well for the most part, and you made it tough for Gunnar Stockton. Remember, Gunnar Stockton lit up Tennessee defense a few weeks ago in Knoxville. You limited him to a certain degree, So if you Bama, you feel good coming in. But again, you playing a team that's hungry. A team wants to show, hey, last year was not a fluke for us. We them dudes. We them guys. You know what I'm saying? And when you have that, you have to be able to come in and be focused and making sure that you make it tough, right? Because Pavia is coming in confident, 75% completion percentage, right? 13 touchdowns on the year, only 3 interceptions. He's coming in confident. Right? And he's coming in like, yeah, we gonna do this. And he's their best rusher this year, right? So with the dual threat RPO game and what he can bring to that side of the table, you're going to have to be disciplined if you Bama, right? Because they're going to run that all game and they're going to make you be disciplined with your edges. Now, you look at last game, LT Overton was doing his thing, right? He was tearing up Georgia, right? So you're going to need a similar performance, not just from him, but just from your defensive line of staying disciplined, making the right plays, making the right reads for 4 quarters, right? But you got to feel confident going into this game. You know, you studied the tape, you know what you bring to the table, you know about their weapons, right? And the key is going to be for Vanderbilt, if you're going to beat this Bama team, you have to attack the middle of the field, right? And the reason I say that, it's not that Bama doesn't have linebackers. They do. But you got one of the best tight ends in college football, Eli Stowers. So you're going to need to get him the ball in space in the middle of the field, get going early, establish a tempo and a rhythm with Diego Pavia, and you got a shot in this game. But if you're Alabama, you're going to have to be very careful that you might have to bring a safety up, right? Excuse me. You might have to bring different things to throw different looks at Pavia and kind of confuse him. So it's going to be an interesting chess match between the two and to see who kind of comes out on top. But that is my preview, my things to watch out for in this game. I think 2 really good opponents, 2 really good teams looking to take really that next step of this year, right? And 2 teams with obviously aspirations of getting to the college football playoff. You know, now I don't know if I should do my prediction now of who I'm going to roll with, but last week I rolled with Georgia, Bama ended up beating them. I have confidence in Alabama. I have confidence in the Crimson Tide. So I'm going to roll with Alabama. I think they're going to come out on top. I believe they're going to be able to run the ball with Jim Miller. Ty Simpson's going to make the throws down the field. Cooked Georgia last week for nearly 400 yards of offense by himself. I think you will see the same thing. Crimson Tide shows, hey, week 1, you wasn't on our A game. But week 6, we ready. We done got all that stuff out of our system, and we here to stay. You know, and I think it's going to be a close game. I got a 31-24 victory for Alabama. I think Alabama's going to do enough in this game to win, but I think Vanderbilt is going to be interesting. I think Vanderbilt gets out to an early lead in this one, but Bama responds and shows that they're a team that should be in the CFP. I'm going with the Crimson Tide in this one. All right, so that is my preview for obviously that matchup. All right.